Today we're talking about red flags. Red flags in games, red flags in relationships, red flags for all things in life. It's easy when you're just starting off in a relationship to overlook things that are obvious red flags. Character problems that seem outlandish and ridiculous. But you think to yourself, well, it was just that one time. It's just that one thing. It's just one small disagreement. It's just that one person that she treated poorly. She's not going to do it to me. And we rationalize things. Or maybe it's not a romantic relationship. Maybe it's that job. And everyone else says that the company culture is terrible and it's toxic and it doesn't respect work-life balance at all. And you're never going to see your family and it's just going to be absolutely horrendous. But then you think to yourself, well, that's other people. That's not going to be me. Or, to pick on a topic a bit closer to home, maybe it's a video game. You start playing it, and the very first thing that you encounter is an ad that you have to watch. You can't play the game without watching an ad to unlock a loot box. But the game has kind of nice graphics. It has kind of nice music. There's a lot that you could find to like about the game. And so it's easy to overlook that red flag, that garish red flag, and say, well, there's definitely something good about this game. So I'll just pretend I didn't notice that one bad thing, and I'll cross my fingers and hope that it just doesn't get worse, or maybe it was just a once-off. And the truth is, it only goes downhill from there. It's like if you have a rat, you know, not a pet rat, but a wild rat living in your house, and you saw a rat. There he was. And you want to be idealistic. So you say to yourself, well, that was just one rat. You know? It was Tim. Tim the rat. And you want to kind of push out of your mind that truth that you really are very much aware of, which is that there's never just one rat. No, you've got an infestation of rats. But it's just a lot more convenient if you lie to yourself and you say it's just one rat. Because you only saw one rat. But really there's a lot of them. And there's so many instances of our lives which work out to be this way. Situations where we know the truth. We weren't born yesterday. But we don't want to believe it fully. We want to tell ourselves that things that are broken really aren't as broken as they look. Whether it's a game, or a people, or a place. And then nature continues to go ever onward. And no matter how much we want to lie to ourselves, things continue to demonstrate the same nature that they always have demonstrated. And we inevitably are disappointed because there comes to be a reckoning when we have to face the truth. That game that we thought looked good, but it had gambling mechanics. ultimately is pay to win. Maybe we didn't want to face that fact when we downloaded that game on our cell phone and thought it looked cool during the tutorial. But there comes a point where you can't progress anymore without hitting that wall, that paywall. And then it's the final ultimatum. You can't ignore it anymore. Or maybe it's that relationship where you overlook some problems, but then those problems get exponentially worse until there comes a time when you can't pretend that they're not there any longer. Now, there's something to be said for making the best of a situation. But there's also something to be said for acknowledging the truth. And if you have been in denial of something, it kind of doesn't matter how much you try to make the best of something that isn't good. There will come a point where it just is what it is. And maybe good management can delay the inevitable. But there's a difference between something that's fundamentally good, but not perfect, and something that looks good superficially, but it's actually flawed on a foundational level. And that's true whether you're talking about a job or a relationship or a game or anything else in life. Which leads me to this saying, which I've heard many times and I've always loved. Don't allow the perfect to become the enemy of the good. Which means you're better off looking for something that has a certain foundational decency. And even if it isn't good at everything, it can still be good for you. Think about that marriage that's lasted for many, many years. And then you could go to the happily married couple that have been together for, 30 or 40 years and say, would you like to upgrade to someone who's, prettier or younger? And of course they wouldn't go for that, because they have something that's fundamentally good. And something that has fundamentally good quality will always trump something that's empty but pretty on the surface. And I think that's maybe where we go wrong in society. It's so easy for us to turn our heads and be distracted by a lot of pretty things when we really should be looking for things that are good. I was thinking about going on a little vacation trip, and I thought, well, I could go down to, like the comic convention or whatever. And I thought, well, wouldn't that be cool? Go maybe get an autograph from some celebrity from a TV show or a video game I like, and go out of town and go spend a little while in a hotel and, just have some fun. And then I thought to myself, isn't it crazy that I would think about going out somewhere and maybe spend $1,000 to $2,000 easily to do this, just so that I can say I did it for 3 or 4 days. And what things could I buy? Things I would cherish for probably my whole life with a couple $1,000. If I went on, eBay or Amazon or something and just bought some of those cool things that I would have otherwise just looked at and said, oh my goodness, that's pretty cool, and then never actually got them. What if I, just spent half of that money on something durable and lasting instead of splurging it on something that ultimately gives me nothing to show for it in return? Life is filled with these opportunities. It's a difference between having a good meal at home that's cheap and affordable and fairly healthy versus going to a fast food restaurant for food that's less healthy and not even more enjoyable, but on some level more convenient. I think that's one reason why we've come to not enjoy games very much, because we're always looking for that new, pretty, sexy, appealing thing. And we never really just calm down and look for things that are built upon principles that endure. When you really put it into perspective, it's pretty simple after all. Imagine if I said, okay, you're only going to be able to play one game. You can pick one game, and that's going to be the game that you play. You don't get to pick a second one. It's just one game you can play. Then what criteria would you use to judge it? Would it be the one with one specific really cool attribute that sucks in a lot of other ways? Or would it be that one title that seems like overall it's got the most going for it as a whole? In our lives, we should always focus on things that bear good fruit, and not just things that attract attention. We've seen great examples of this with the release of games like New World, and maybe more recently, Amazon's announcement that they're making a new Lord of the Rings MMO. And I thought it was interesting that the devs said something about how when they make this new Lord of the Rings MMO that they're planning, people from Lord of the Rings Online will just move over. That's, I believe, the exact verbiage that was used. And I thought, isn't that totally ridiculous? That somebody who I don't even know is going to go to an established community of players who love this game that they've been playing for more than a decade and tell them that just because there's a new game on the block that's branded as Lord of the Rings that probably has better graphics, everyone's just going to move over. As if the only thing that matters is a game with new graphics. And maybe that's true if you're looking for some sort of a first-person shooter or something that's going to just be a bit of quick entertainment for a little while until you lose interest, and then you play it through for a little while and find the next thing. But not for people that want something lasting, that want something enduring. For them, it has to be something more than just good graphics that ties it all together. It's got to be a labor of love. It's got to be something that's special on a spiritual level. And I think that's so very true in many aspects of our lives. People are willing to volunteer for things that they love and to do them for free. Life is filled with examples of people finding joy in things that are simple and sticking to things even if they're not perfect. Because really what we're looking for in life is a sense that we're part of something that matters. And that's where people go wrong when they market themselves or they market a product. And they say, well, look at this. It's the best. Well, that's fine. Maybe it is. Maybe it's the best in some ways. But is it best in the ways that really count? Or is it just fluff? Something that looks good today, but 6 months from now, you can't even really remember it. In life, we come to crossroads, intersections. You're going along and you come to that T in the road, and you have this opportunity to make a choice. You can go forward, and you can embrace the course you've chosen. Or you can establish a boundary. You can turn to the left or the right. Or you can turn around and go back the way you came. There's a place for each of those courses. But whatever course we choose, we should avoid waffling around too much, and we should be firm in our course. I think that's important. Because when we talk about choosing things that are good over things that are perfect, there is one underlying truth that always seems to be present when it comes to all good things, and that is consistency and commitment. You'll never find something really, really good that's really, really temporary. You can't really find the best within until you learn to stop looking so hard everywhere for some new thing, and you start learning to slow down and see good in the place where you currently are and in the things you've already chosen. Then you just eliminate some of the noise and you deep dive into the course before you, make the most of it. You know, I think sometimes we talk about searching for things. We talk about searching for wholeness in life. We talk about finding the right relationships. Maybe picking the right game to play. But I do think that there's a point where you have to get there. Like you gotta find a place where you're okay. You've gotta reach journey's end. It doesn't mean that you don't do anything after that, but you've got to reach a point of wholeness in life. You can't always be in that role of the newbie, the person that's broke and searching for answers. You can be that for a little while. But at some point you can't get that new player buff anymore. And then you've got to stop being lost. Because if you spend your whole life being lost, how are you going to help other people find their way? If you make it all the way to the end of your life and you still haven't figured out how to have a sense of basic peace in your life, or to have a basic level of confidence that you see good in the things that you're doing with your life, well, I think a lot of us do spend our whole lives lost. Then we wonder why we didn't feel like we did enough to make a difference. And it's not really, it's not that we couldn't. It's that we never understood that at some point you have to arrive. We allowed ourselves to spend our whole lives in the shallows, never really venturing out. You can build, but then at some point you have to have something to show for. So how do you do that? Well, look for principles that endure. Look for foundational principles that are good and worthy, not necessarily things that are perfect. And then start investing. Now, I used to think investment was more of a lottery game, a casino game. You try to outsmart the machine kind of a thing. And then I realized, investment is a lot more just patience and long-term putting money into things that you actually believe in. It's just that simple. Maybe that's not what we want to hear, but enduring principles don't change very much from one year to the next or one lifetime to the next. They have a way of remaining remarkably constant. So make those the things that you use as your own North Star when you're trying to find your way in life. As long as you're investing in things that have value, you can't be ever entirely lost. Till next time, thank you for watching.